Hello and welcome to this video on how do I build a dashboard report in Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2013. My name is Steven Renders. I am a Microsoft certified trainer working for Plataan in Belgium. At the end of this video we will have created a dashboard report. Let me show it to you. When we run the report, the request page opens and has a filter on the top 3 customers and the top X items which the user can change. If we preview the report, we can see a top 3 chart for the customers and a top 5 chart for the items. The chart on customers allows me to click on a customer and the corresponding customer cart page will open. In the report there is a navigation. I can click on Go to Inventory, and in the same report I am now seeing an item inventory chart. This is actually a matrix. In here I can see the inventory for all of the items divided by location. I can click, for example, on an item and the location, and in this case I will be redirected to a sub-report. In the sub-report I can see there is a filter on the item number on which I clicked. I can also click here inside of the matrix and be redirected to the same sub-report, but now also filtered on location. In the chart there is a color coding for the color of the numbers of the inventory. It will be blue when it's bigger than 0, and it will be red when it's smaller or equal than 0. For every item there is also a circle indicating if the inventory is bigger, smaller or equal to the reorder point. The yellow circle will be green, red or yellow in that case. Let's have a look how we can create this dashboard report. We will develop this report in 3 easy steps. The first step will be to build the data model. In here we will add the tables that we will use for the 2 dashboards. Next we'll also incorporate labels and create a request page. The second step will be to build the layout of the report. For this we will be adding top X charts. We will include a table X for the inventory matrix, and then we will create a drill to report with the hyperlinks to pages and reports. Next we will test the report, preview the report, and then also make sure that the filters are available in the top of the report. The first step to create the dashboard report will be to build the data model. We will do this by adding tables, then use labels, and next build the request page. When we create the report, the first step is to create 2 global variables, a top X customer and a top X item, both as an integer. Next we will create the data model. To add the 2 integers I'm using an integer data item at the top of the data model. This integer table is filtered so it will only iterate once. The reason for this is that we don't want the 2 integers to be repeated in the details of the dataset. We only would like to see them once. Next I am adding the customer table. The customer table will be used in the first chart. The fields that I've added are the number, the name, the sales and the profit local currency. And for the name I have also included the caption. The next step is to add the item data item. This data item will be used in the second chart. For this I have added the number, description, reorder point, purchase local currency and sales local currency. Then, in order to create the chart, I will also be adding item ledger entries. From the item ledger entry table, I'll be using the location code and the quantity. The location code will be used for grouping in the matrix. The quantity will be the total and the item number will be the other grouping. To make sure we don't see any unnecessary items, I have added a filter on print only if detail. So an item will only be available if there are ledger entries. The item ledger entry table also contains a filter. This filter will remove all item ledger entries where the quantity is 0 or the location code is empty. Next we'll go to the menu, select View Labels and open the report Label Designer. In here I will be adding the labels that will be used as text in the report in order for them to be multi-language. I'm using a top X, customers, items, item inventory and report title label. You can enter the multi-language description in the caption ML property for each label. Now we build the request page of the report. In the request page I have added the top X customer and the top X items. We are now ready to create the layout of the report. The first step was to build the data model. We did this by adding tables, then adding labels, and then we built the request page. Step 2 will be to build the layout of the report in Visual Studio. We will start by adding 2 charts to the layouts. Next, we will include a tablix and visualize it as a matrix. In the chart and in the matrix, we will create drill-through links to pages and reports. We will add the link to the report and the link to the page. In Visual Studio, the first step is to add the report title to the report. The report title is a label and it's available as a parameter in the report. Via the parameters collection, you can fill in the value expression for the text box. Next, we'll give it a blue color. Next, we will add a chart to the report. As the chart type, we will select a 3D stacked column. As data fields for the chart, we will use the sales local currency and the profit local currency from the data source. We will then add the number of the customer as the category fields for the chart. To make it a top X chart, we will go to the category group properties of the number fields and we will add a filter. In this case, I will be using a top N filter on the sales local currency fields. As the value, I will be using the top X customer coming out of the datasets. In the chart, in the sorting tab, I will be sorting by sales local currency from Z to A. We are grouping on the number in the chart, but as a label, I will be showing the name of the customer. Next, I will edit the title properties of the chart, and as an expression for the title text, to make the title dynamic, I will use the top X from the parameters, which is a label, the top X from the fields, which is the value that the user selected as the top X filter, and then customers, which is also a label coming out of the parameters collection. Next, in the chart properties, I will select as a palette the semi-transparent colors. In the chart, I will right-click here on the green bars and select to show the data labels. To make it a 3-dimensional chart, I will also select some 3D effects. I will enable 3D, enable series clustering, and then set the rotation, the inclination, and the projection mode. Now we will add the second chart from the toolbox. In this chart I would like to show the quantity of the items sold per item. In the data fields I will drop the quantity of the item ledger entry table. In the category fields I will select the item number. In the category group properties of the item number I will add a filter. Here we will filter on the quantity of the item ledger entry on a top N filter using the top X item parameter as a value. Like in the previous chart, we will add a sorting on the data fields from Z to A. Then I will right click on the series properties and I will add a calculated series showing the moving average. We will start from the first point and this will become the moving average line, as you can see here in the calculated series properties. We are now ready with the second chart and can move on to add the matrix. From the toolbox I will select the matrix control and add it onto the body of the report. Then in the matrix I will select the location code as the column group and the item number as a row group. As a data field I will be using the item ledger entry quantity. In the properties of this text box I will change the expression to use the sum. After this I will right click on the data fields, select insert column inside the group to the right to create room for an image control. From the toolbox I will select the image control and drag it into the new text box. In the image properties I will use an embedded data source, and in the value for the image I will create an expression. Via the import button I will first import 3 images. I will be importing a red circle, a green circle and a yellow circle. Then in the expression I can create a switch statement. In this statement I will say if the reorder point is smaller than the total quantity, the red circle will be shown. If it's equal, I will show the yellow circle, and if it's bigger, we will show the green circle. For the text box showing the quantity, we will go into the color property and create an expression. In this expression I will say if the total quantity is bigger than 0, the color should be blue, otherwise it should be red. In the text box where I'm showing the item number on the left side, in the row grouping, I will change the expression to also include the description and to add the item number between brackets. In the group properties, I am still using the item as a group. The expression of the text box is actually what will be shown at runtime, but the grouping remains the same. We will now add a page footer to the report, and in the page footer I will add 2 text boxes. In the first text box I will use the built-in fields to show the user ID. In the second text box I will create an expression to show the execution time, then the page number and the total pages property. In order to navigate inside the same report, I will now add 2 text boxes. The first text box will go above the charts, and the second text box will go in between the chart and the matrix. In the properties of the top text box, I will set the bookmark to a text called top. In the properties of the bottom text box, I will set an internal bookmark to the word inventory. Next, in the text box properties of the top text box, I will set an action to jump to the bookmark inventory. In the text box between the chart and the matrix, I will go into the text box properties and set an action to jump to the bookmark top. Doing this will allow me to jump from this text box to the text box on the top and the other way around. Now it is time to add the link to a page and the link to a report. For this I will go into the series properties of the first chart, then go to action and select jump to or go to URL. In the expression for the URL I will be entering run page 21 and will be adding a filter on the customer number where it should be equal to the number of the customer in the chart on which I clicked. In the matrix we will add similar actions on these 2 text boxes to jump to a new report. But before we can do this we should create the new report. We will create a new report. The new report should be able to show information out of the item ledger entry table. I am selecting the item number, posting date, entry type, location code, quantity, the picture of the item, to be able to show it in the report. Next I will also be adding the filters to the datasets to show the filters when the report is executed. In the layout of this new report I will add a matrix to the body. Then I will group the matrix on location code, on the posting dates and on entry type. As the details I'm showing the item number and the quantity, and for every grouping I will be adding a subtotal. Next I will give every grouping a different color in the properties of the lines. You can select the lines and go to the background color property. In the page header of this report I will add a text box with the filters. In the footer of the report I will add an image from the toolbox, and in the properties of the image I will select to show a database image which is of a MIME type BMP, and in the expression of the value of this image I will be selecting the picture from the dataset. The layout of this simple drill-through report is now ready. Now we can close Visual Studio and save and compile the report. We will now add the link in the report 55,000, which is the dashboard report. For this we go back to the layouts, and in the properties of the text box in the row grouping I will go to the Action tab. I will select the Go to URL option, and in the expression for the URL I will create the following expression. I will run my report 55001, and via the ampersand filter construction I can now access my data item and filter on the item number on which I have clicked in the matrix. For the text box in the data series of the matrix I will go into the properties, also on the Action tab, go to URL, construct the following URL. I will add a link to report 55001 with a filter on the item number like in the previous. But then I will add a second filter to also filter on the location code. This is because in this text box we are actually on an item number but also on the location code, and both of them should be passed as parameters to the sub-report to filter it. We are now ready with the layout of the dashboard report, and it's time to test it. In the second step we built the layout of the report. We added 2 topics chart with a topics filter. Then we included a tablix which is visualized as a matrix control, and in the matrix we added a drill through link. One link to the report and one link to a page. The next step will now be to test the report. We will preview the report and see the filters. When we run the report from the object designer we can see the request page. In the request page I can filter on the customers and the topics items. By default the filter is 3 and 5. When I preview the report I can see the 2 charts. I can click on a customer and I will be redirected to the customer page. Via the internal navigation I can go and jump to the inventory matrix. In the inventory matrix, I can see the descriptions and the number of the items, I can see the locations and the inventory. The numbers are color coded, as also the flags. I can click on an item and it will be redirected to a sub-report. I can also click here, I'm now redirected to the sub-report and the filter on the location.